Hello all, and today I'll show you, I'm not sure how to call it, flash movie. It's called A Bit for Freedom, but it's more like a flip book, but it's under the category movies. So let's hit play. Welcome to the talking flip book. Simply drag the bottom corners of the pages to turn. A Bit for Freedom by AdamCook. And you can see who the creators of this book.
I find myself in my sharpest attire. My feet are planted in a lavish parlour in the grandest hall of the city. There are checkerboard floors as far as the eye can bother, open buffets for the loose-belted, a beautiful chandelier hanging elegantly in the strata, its stately shards musing on the many facets of the crowd below. Wine swills around the innards of my glass like an astronaut in training. It's supposed to be healthy for you. So is blood. I'd rather not drink either. Why I was invited escapes me. If someone desired my presence, they were being oblique about it. Maybe I'm just a post for the more disheveled guests to lean upon, someone to prop up the roof, should they bring it down on themselves. I aim myself aimlessly at all the angles of the room, soaking in the atmosphere. It stinks. For a black tie affair, the alcohol supply is sufficiently stocked to supplement a medieval siege. The whole room reeks of sour tipple, stomach juices, and celebrity-endorsed odors. Did you know that there's a cologne out there that smells of cheeseburgers? One envies the rich. As a result of this ample beverage selection, a considerable number of guests have become fairly tipsy. I found amusement in watching them monkey about, pirouetting on tables and swinging from the banisters, but after a while it all became an embarrassing affair, better recounted at a later date on YouTube, where one's distance from the happenings would vamp up their humor value. My subsequent evasion of eye contact with the attendees had been going wonderfully, as I observed the lovely furnished wallpaper, a creamy yellow with an intricate vine pattern running the length of the hall. Such engagements were presently thwarted by the ambience of the room. The air swam in front of my face like thick, sweaty treacle, alcohol vapors peeling the papers from the wall. It prompted me to roam deeper into the center of the room as lolling patrons fell back onto the unfurling paper and became stuck like flies to its glue. These perils were easily eluded. The wallpaper's patterns no longer visible, I stared into the assembled patrons and tried to decipher the pattern of their male baldness. My gaze zigzagged and crisscrossed over the ivory domes of the crowd, like a caffeinated chess piece playing an entire board independently. And then my eyes met on the lovely lady, and they welled with the anticipation of her superficial promise. She shone like the center of an Oreo, and was similarly squeezed into a dress as blue as dolphin tears. Her eyes seemed occupied with potent thoughts, and her presence clearly outclassed the vapid understudies surrounding her podium. I could not put a price on a beauty like this. Fortunate, then, that someone with a more critical eye could. £100! Opening bid. It was a bachelorette auction, a charity gala for the starving children of Africa. Well, more for the starving charity organizers, entertainers, supply drivers, and warlords, but the sentiment was pure. Nonetheless, I thought the practice degrading, and mentally declined to participate.
125, 200, 250.
The first flurry of bids flew across the room and gargled around the mouth of the auctioneer, who spat them out again like a Gatling gun as his eyes rattled in their bunkers.
250, 250, 250, I have that amount. 260 over there, 270 from the gentleman in the punch bowl. 290 going once.
Buzz. Buzz.
Going twice.
Buzz, 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 and buzz. A fly was challenging me. I was consumed with murderous rage, doubtless a side effect of the alcohol I'd inhaled. As the beast streaked across my fringe, I smacked the bugger with my palm. It bore witness to a concentrated burst of 5 years' training in karate. The fly was fried.
300 from the young lad in the sharp attire.
Huh? Steep price for a date, isn't it? Who'd pay that much for... As I quickly lowered my hand, it dawned on me that a mistake had been made.
Going once, going twice.
Oh well, a good act of charity now might redeem myself for that fly I squashed.
Sold to the last sober man in the building.
A spotlight shone down, highlighting the pinstripes of my suit. Suddenly, like moths, everyone in the building became attracted to the light and descended upon me, wishing anemic congratulations, babbling anecdotes, and asking for money. They nuzzled me with their bright red noses, guiding me as I backpedaled onto the podium where the young bachelorette and I linked arms. Strangely speechless, perhaps sapped of energy by the high-voltage bulb of the spotlight, I blurted a few pleasantries into the lower section of the microphone. Oh, well, good cause, Africa, 9/11, never forget and all that. Yes, we can! A short round of surprisingly well-coordinated applause followed my oration. Then we were left well alone. Instead of being cripplingly awkward, the conversation flowed rather easily between us, sort of like a blood transfusion.
Nice speech.
Well, I kind of winged it, but...
It's so cool that you showed up. That money's going to help a lot of starving kids.
Eventually. I'd have gone a lot higher if the bidding was a bit more ferocious. These inebriates clearly don't realize what a lovely young lady they've overlooked.
That's so sweet of you to say. Frankly, though, I'm not surprised. I've got kind of used to being rejected.
Don't you have a boyfriend?
Well, not really. I haven't had much success in relationships.
Bad experiences.
Bad breath.
And she belched melodiously into my melting countenance. A pungent cocktail of aged fruits, cake, and armpit. It didn't entirely mix well with the wine, so I nonchalantly turned my head away to gasp some fresh air. Really, I haven't noticed, I choked. But my mind was already elsewhere. There was a new development taking place on the grand staircase. A hirsute gentleman descended, cloaked in a fabulous suit, and the gasps of the guests. I couldn't quite distinguish his features through the ambient fog, but as he came ever closer, fear gripped me like a thigh master. Of course. How foolish I'd been. The clues had been there all along. The banana peel covering his abode, the apery-japery of the guests, and his Lady Jane now at my side. As his prehensile foot-thumb grappled the bottom step, I realized that Kong was not the common Asian name I had assumed it to be. There he stood, number 8 in both the Fortune 500 and the wonders of the world.
What you doing with my girl?
My greatest surprise was not that he could speak, but that he was a chav. You can only guise so much with a dapper suit. Well, sir, this fine girl was just showing me the lovely wallpaper you've installed. As if I needed assistance in this matter, the girl stepped in.
Get away from him, Kong! He won the auction, so he gets me for the evening. Stop suffocating my lifestyle. I'm not your property. I make my own choices.
The girl's not for sale!
His arm fur bristling like a giant's toothbrush, he seized lot number 28 and whisked her back up the steps. I briefly pondered whether or not I should get involved. Not to be done out of a bargain, I necked my drink and raced after them. Coasting through the doors, up another flight of stairs, into It had all completely changed. The scenery of the shindig downstairs had melted away. The previously vogue sounds of speech, music, and breaking glass, now barely audible as a muffled wheedle through the floorboards. Or more accurately, the foliage. It was a jungle in there. There was a magical cornucopia of horticulture, so saturated in bright colours that they practically dripped paint rather than juice. I observed connections for phone lines and internet nestled away in the bushes, which gave Kong contact with his business partners. He must have had green fingers to cultivate such a remarkable hideaway. As I search for a clearing, an astonishing plant called Babs whispers warmly. You smell lovely. Thank you, I reply, not used to being complimented back by things I admire. It's flame-grilled whopper and the gas of my one true love. Of course, I recognize Madame's unrelenting scent. After all, I invented it. Babs plucks at himself with a tendril and hands me a pungent-smelling fruit. Whenever she suffered troubling relationships, she came to me, and I concocted this fruit to keep her suitors at bay. Since she got involved with that Mr. Kong, however, she stopped taking them. Judging by the way he had her slung over his shoulder, I think she could go for one right about now. Okay, enough, you rambling weed. So in essence, she just needs this to top up on her 5 a day and regain that knockout whiff? Indeed. If you hurry, you may still be able to save her. Reaching into the bushes, Babs parts the way with his tendrils, and I rush through.
Get off of me, you big oaf!
As I race along the perilous rope bridge, Kong comes into sight, standing at the base of a steep column with many rocky outcrops along the side. He held his prize in one paw
Let go of me!
and a coconut in the other. A short moment later, the lesser of the two items whistled by my ear, breaking through a plank in the bridge. Suddenly the air turned brown and hairy as it filled with a barrage of these gigantic deadly nuts. Ducking and weaving, I managed to survive to the end of the bridge just as it collapsed under the assault. Kong began leaping from bluff to bluff away from me. Something of a mountain goat in my soft-soled shoes, I managed to call his bluff, swiftly gaining ground until I was within reach of the beast. Utilizing my previous paperboy experience, I slung Babs's smelly offspring in their direction with all my might. The fruit sailed across to my girl, and she bit down on it with the viciousness of a very pretty pit bull. It relinquished a powerful stink that sapped the very fresh from the air. Within mere seconds, the entire jungle smelt like a Spanish airport in summer. Kong's eyelids fluttered like cicadas, and his eyes rolled listlessly. Ah, yes, it worked. Wobbling slightly to the right, slouching narcoleptically over the ledge, the fantastic ape finally keeled over the side, dropping the young damsel to fall into the abyss below. Downstairs, people are probably discussing the weather with genuine enthusiasm. I'm just saying, it could be worse. I legged it to the edge and observed some vines hanging loosely from the canopy above. Having enjoyed George of the Jungle more than Tarzan, I was worried about my prospective vine-swinging skills, but nonetheless I went for broke and grabbed on. With surprising ease, I flew through the air and grabbed hold of my lady in a rescuing fashion. Like many heroes, I didn't have much of an exit strategy, so we continued to plummet for what seemed like minutes, wafting on a fruity gust of halitosis. Then the ground rudely appeared. We splashed into a body of water and took a moment to gather ourselves. We had touched down in a lovely crystalline pond. If monkeys are as smart as some scientists are leading us to believe, then this is certainly where they'd come to think. As we stood contemplating the scenery, the pond's bottom suddenly loosened, pardon the expression, and descended under our feet. A shimmering yellow light surrounded us, dazzling in our eyes. We were slowly lowering towards the ground. The pond had emptied out at the top of the great hall's chandelier, and we stood astride it, like the admirals of a faux diamond-draped UFO. Water dripped from the stern, sobering the guests and alerting them to our arrival. As we touched down, arm in arm, I felt an immense pride well up within me. Or maybe it was alcohol poisoning. No, that's verified pride. What a glorious feeling. I almost felt like beating my chest, but then what would I have become? Still, as people cheered, cooed, and shook the water from out of their boots, I felt positive about the future. I glanced over at my bachelorette, who beamed at me. It was one of those nights you felt could last you your whole life. We strode through the thick smog of cheers, towards tomorrow and eternity.
Excuse me, sir. Truly resplendent display. Incidentally, here is the check.
I turn to my beautiful date and say, "Oh dear, I don't seem to have brought enough money with me. Do you mind if we go Dutch?" There is no such thing as a perfect match.
Alright, so I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully see you guys next time.